Notice her body and her shoulders are facing the camera. It just doesn't look right to me. Light falls across not only her face, but the rest of her body. Also, it's just more comfortable. You definitely don't want to be talking to somebody like this for an hour. Hey everyone, and welcome to Adorama Cinema. My name is Julian, and today I'm going to be walking you through how I set up an interview. There are plenty of these online, but this one's going to be different because I'm going to be sharing a bunch of little tips and tricks with you throughout the video that are really going to help you elevate your process and your setup. So let's jump in. When we first show up to a location, we want to connect with the client or the producer and understand what they want us to shoot and why. And we want to get a lay of the land. So the first thing we're going to do is find the frame. And I like to go around handheld. It's just a little bit faster. For a camera, I'm generally shooting interviews at 50mm. But if I want to show more of the scene or maybe more of the person, I'm going to shoot at 35mm. And if I have a zoom and I want to land somewhere in between, I might be shooting at 40mm. This is generally the kind of stuff that I'm looking for. The back left of the frame is that corner, and on the right of the frame, you see this window, which is gonna beautifully motivate our key light to light her face. I'm gonna keep moving though, because there's a couple things I don't love about this image. It's also gonna be really hard to light because we have all this other furniture here and we're kind of slammed up against this wall. These background elements are a little bit distracting. That plant coming out of her head. The windows aren't perfectly lined up. It's not bad. This composition actually works really well. I love the window on the right side of the frame. It's definitely brighter than I'd want it to be. So maybe we could combat that by turning up the key and turning up the ND. And I love how the corner of the room is right there on the left side of frame. This is definitely a really good looking image that I wouldn't mind recording on. This is another good composition or good starter frame that I would definitely feel comfortable doing if I had to. We're shooting into the corner of the room. She's looking towards that window that's there, which is motivating the key light. And so it looks very natural. Again, there's nothing in the background that is overly distracting or distracting at all. But after working this room for a little bit, we actually realized that putting Kelly here on the table in the center and giving us a bunch more depth behind her was really the best move and the best look. And all the elements play a role in the background. I do wish that right side window with the bush outside was a little bit brighter to motivate my key light, but I can live with this image. So after finding the frame, we actually spent a bunch of time moving furniture around and staging the set. We needed space for the tripods and the lights, and we wanted to sort of dial in a couple background elements that weren't quite perfect. It's very rare that you ever are just gonna walk into a perfect situation, but you can make a situation really good or much better just by making some tweaks. So we found the frame here on camera A. This is about 42-ish millimeter, and I really like the look of it. The next thing I want to do is get the positioning of the subject. Notice where Kelly's facing. Her body and her shoulders are facing the camera. A lot of people will set up like this by default, and it's up to you to make the adjustment. Kelly, can you take your shoulders and your body and face them towards the mark? If her shoulders weren't aligned with her face, it just doesn't look right to me, and the light falls across not only her face, but the rest of her body when she's aligned. Also, it's just more comfortable. You definitely don't want to be talking to somebody like this for an hour. So the next thing we're going to do is find the B camera angle. It's fun. You can take some chances. You can experiment anywhere from 80 to 85, 90, 100, 105, even 135 when you have to. I prefer 85mm for this angle. That's my default. And I'll change it up from there. I'm looking at these background elements. I definitely like this better than this, just because I like that plant. The first thing you'll notice is that I'm not afraid to chop the top of her head off. If I was wider at 70 here, this is full shot, the top of her head, and some people might want that. That's totally fine. As I zoom in to 85, 100, This is really where I'm living. Again, I'm not afraid to chop the top. I do not put her eyes dead center. I do not put her face dead center. I generally put them at the top third. Some people will come over here and sort of set B camera up like this. And I generally want them to come a little bit more frontal so we can get that far eye. You'll notice that this camera is a little higher than camera A. I like to tilt down, shoot down on the subject. Now I'll just show you a couple alternatives. I've been having a lot of fun with right justifying lately. Instead of putting her in the perfect top left third in this case, I'll put her in the top right third. And it's less traditional, but it works. It's really cool. I like it. I've seen this on a couple documentaries. This looks really cool. Experimentation is really fun. This is sort of that hero image. And then if I put her on the far justification, that's just even wilder. You gotta watch out for your light stands on this one. Total profile is always fun, especially really tight. Really cool look. Now I'm gonna show you how we lit this interview. This is specific to this room and this situation and honestly how I'm feeling today. This isn't exactly how I set up an interview every single time. I really just want you to see some of the techniques and bring them on your next shoot. We've got those little windows in the background, specifically this one here on the right side of the frame. So that window there motivates the viewer to believe that there's also a window over here, and that's why I'm putting my key light and also all my other lights on this side. When you sort of bunch all your lights together, coming from the same direction, it's definitely gonna feel more natural, and that's the look we're going for. I want Kelly to look at the interviewer, and then I want my cameras to be on the dark side of the face, opposite of the windows on this side. So I'm using all Apurture and Amaran lights. That means I can connect them all via Bluetooth to the Sidus Link app. This just makes everything so much easier. No more walking around set trying to dial in lights. I can really just dial in all the levels from my phone. Before turning on any lights, the next thing I want to do is set the exposure of the things that I can't control, which in this case are the windows in the background. So I'm going to turn my ND on, get my iris set, and I'm going to dial in my ND to where I want those background windows to fall. And in this case, it's 1/10 of an ND on both cameras. The next thing I'll do is turn on my key light. You can totally use a lantern as a key light. It's actually a beautiful soft light. It's also raising the ambient level of this room a little, which is actually something I wanted to do. So I wasn't overly concerned with getting in grid on a light dome and killing all the spill. I actually want more spill right here in this specific situation. This is Apurture 600D on a really low setting. It's 3.3 daylight balance, so it should be about the same as the color temperature coming in through the windows in the back here. It's not way off in the distance. It's pretty close. The closer it is, the bigger it is, and the bigger it is, the softer it is. So it's obviously not in the frame, but it's right here, sort of in this 45-degree angle from her face, just spilling soft light across. The next light we have here is a hair light or a rim light. This light is going to just put a little edge on her shoulders and her hair. This is a PT2c, an Amaran 2-foot tube light. So this is what the hair light looks like off, and this is what it looks like on. Now, if you only had a key and a hair, you'd be totally fine. The next 3 lights I want to show you are just for bonus points. If you feel like your background needs a little bit more ambient or the room needs a little bit more ambient, we're going to turn an ambient light on. This one's just bouncing off of the ceiling, giving a little bit more level to the room overall. All right, now we get to have some fun. The first one I have adding a little bit of interest to the scene is an Apurture 60X. And basically what I want to do with it is add a little bit of highlights, make it look like maybe there's a reflection of something outside. And as you can see, it's just adding interest to those pillows in the background and that plant. And it's actually casting some sort of rays across the windowsill and the wall back there. Something that I really like doing is whenever I walk into a building or a house or something and you see some really cool light inside, either take a picture or take a mental note. Not all of that stuff is coming from the sun. Sometimes there are things outside like buildings or windows casting massive reflections, and doing stuff like that. People don't realize that there isn't a window over here in the frame or a window outside reflecting some blast of light in here that looks really cool. So the last light I want to turn on here is an Amaran 300C into a spotlight mount. And what I've done is I've shaped the light to sort of graze across her body here and over her hands and her legs. And this has been a technique that I've really enjoyed using over the years. It adds this extra element of imperfection, natural light, something you see a lot done in movies at like a breakfast table, at a desk, or playing piano. And the combination between the soft light of the key and the hard light of the spotlight mount just adds a real natural look. If you sit down next to or stand next to a window where hard light like this is actually coming through, you'll notice that the window is giving you a really soft key, but then below you have this really hard sunlight. It's just a really elevated look that I really enjoy using whenever I have the time. So every single one of these lights besides the key is slightly warmer than the key. It warms up the room a little bit. It plays off of this practical that we have on in the room here. It adds a little bit of color contrast. Light on her face is just really nice and soft, but this harder sunbeam blasting across her body is a little bit warmer. And the hair light, it's not a lot. It's a couple hundred Kelvin warmer, but it's just slightly different. And I really think it just looks that much better. The last thing you always want to have on standby is either a reflector or a negative fill. This is a 40x40 floppy, but I also love what's called the Matthbounce, which has an ultra bounce on one side and solid on the other. And depending on how I feel, I think I feel pretty good about this image right now, but if I wanted more contrast on her face, I would just push this neg in here. So that's with the neg in. And if we wanted, we can just pull the neg out, and that's what the neg out looks like. You might be asking, do I want a fill light? Honestly, I can't remember the last time I used a fill light. Between a neg fill or an ultra bounce as a reflector here, a reflector would give me all the fill that I need. Every environment we walk into, every room we walk into, lighting situations, they're all different. My hope is that this isn't going to be the end-all be-all answer to every single one of your questions, but this is going to give you a really good idea of how to approach a scene. Thanks so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll be sure to get to them. I hope this video helped. Get out there and shoot. Remember to have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.